Hi everyone, Peter here. We're just going to do a pretty quick flip to collaborate for assignment 2, the essay, and get you ready to jump into the live collaborate and onto the discussion boards to ask your questions. So I'm just going to basically go through what's in the portal under assignments. So this assignment, the word limit is 1,500 words, pretty tight. It's worth 40%, which is actually quite a lot of the overall weighting for this unit. So you need to really have a good think about this one and get the best mark you can get on it. And it's due 5 p.m. Monday, 14th of May, week 9. I'll jump into the assignment overview here. So this assignment task asks you to write an essay reflecting on the key role of education and how it empowers students to participate in a world in which science and technology is embedded throughout all aspects of our lives. So we've got our related learning outcomes, and this assignment will look to assess the following unit learning outcomes. First, critically evaluate single subject and cross-disciplinary approaches to science and technology teaching. I'll go into that further in a minute. Next, to critically consider a range of teaching strategies and how they can be applied to design, technology and digital technology. And also consider how design, technology and digital technologies can be integrated with science to create engaging, safe, inclusive lessons. So these are just kind of, this is the umbrella thing that you're thinking about when you're writing your essay. I'll go into the details. That's not the criteria though. So in this essay, you're asked to respond to two quotes, two statements. The first one is from Professor Ian Chubb in 2011, and he was citing, or this is citing, a 2011 survey of Year 11 and 12 students. I'll read it to you. Our younger generations appear to be disinterested, even disengaged from science, even though they use its applications every day, from their food to their pens to shoes to clothes to smartphones, iPods, televisions and laptops. The second prompting quote is from The Shape of the Australian Curriculum and the Technology section, developed by Akara, I can't ever say that, 2012, and it states, technologies enrich and impact on the lives of people, cultures and societies globally. It's important that as a nation we make connections between creativity, technologies and enterprise as a catalyst for 21st century innovation. We depend on technologies for food and fibre production, communication, construction, energy and water management, health and well-being, knowledge creation, information management, manufacturing and transportation. Wow, that's a lot of stuff there. So in this essay, we're asking you throughout the whole essay, we want you to respond, and in your response, we want you to explore the place of science and technology, both digital and design, in education. So it's science and technology. Don't forget the science. Explore the role of science and technology teachers in equipping and preparing students for the modern world. Explore examples of teaching and assessment strategies for effective and engaging teaching of science and technology. And also explore the place of single and cross-disciplinary approaches to science and teaching technology. If you look at these 4 dot points, they're the real key to nailing this essay. They're the key points that you need to elaborate on in response to those 2 quotes. So you're looking at all of those. And the next 2 are important too, but they won't direct your essay as much. So you've got to support those 4 points above, support your discussions with relevant readings from our learning materials and your own wider research. And you also have to adhere to APA referencing style, including in-text citations and a reference list, which isn't included in the word count. And as you can see down here, there's some resources that could help you in completing this assignment. I won't click in them now. Now, I'm just going to keep the quotes and these 4 points in mind when I want you to think about responding to the quotes. Now, a lot of students just like to include them at the top, which I wouldn't include in the word count if you did it that way. You do not need to directly quote them within the body of your essay. It's very tight, 500 words, and if you're wasting it going back and quoting the quotes, that won't, first of all, be a good argument. We want you to respond to these quotes. So your essay is responding to the quotes, but they don't need to be included in the essay. We'll know what you're responding to. And I said before, some students include them at the top of their essay. That's not counted in the word count and can keep you on track. Although you should be able to formulate an argument in response to those quotes without including them in the introduction or the body of your work. You just keep them in mind within your supporting arguments without directly referring to them. They simply form the basis of your thesis. Here, for example, you might refer to the Chubb quote in your essay if you need to, and the Akara quote. So, for instance, you could say something like, studies indicate that a paradox exists amongst the majority of school leavers who, although embracing technology underpinned by science, are neither interested nor engaged with science. And you might refer to Chubb there. So you're kind of rewording it in a way that would suit you. Or these measures might seem like an effective solution to the disengagement issue highlighted by Professor Ian Chubb. So you're not actually quoting him. So where to start with this? My advice would be have a look at both of the quotes and highlight some of the issues for discussion that stand out to you. And then I'd think about whether I disagreed or agreed with particular aspects. And I'd take 3 or 4 key discussion points and think about analysing them in my essay. So your essay could explore how the curriculum, approaches, teaching strategies, or community environment have the potential to re-engage and inspire those students to become active participants. So what are some of the important concepts for elaboration in your essay that you think you can highlight from those quotes? I would see if I could have a discussion with a friend or a family member about some of them. They're actually quite interesting, and that way you can articulate and refine your ideas before beginning to draft your essay. So maybe some points for discussion could be, what is the importance or influence of technologies and science in the modern world? That's a nice discussion point. What part does education from preschool onwards play in the continuation of innovation and enterprise? Also, Chubb states that students are disengaged in science and technology for a variety of reasons. What's your opinion on this? So to think, where do you stand on this? What do you find interesting about those 2 quotes? What can you draw out of that? And then link to these 1, 2, 3, 4 dot points. They're just ideas you could talk about. So remember that this essay is not a personal reflection though. It needs to, it's a good way to start thinking about how you stand personally on it, but it needs to be written in 3rd person, and all of your positions or arguments need to be supported by sound academic literature. So once you've started thinking about this and you've had a bit of time to reflect, make a bare bones draft. Post your ideas and questions onto your learning group's discussion board. That's always good. And you can post a basic outline. Don't post your essays, but just a basic outline of what you might be talking about in the body of your essay. It is always a good idea to get a bit of feedback on that. So always keep going back to these points at the top. So this assignment, well, really, you can make connections between both quote prompts in your response, but don't look at them just as what the essay is about. The essay is about these things: exploring the place of science and technology, exploring the role of science and technology teachers, and including examples of teaching and assessment strategies for effective engaging of teaching of science and technology, all supported with academic literature. Now, I'm just having a little look at my notes. So it's fairly open-ended, and how you formulate your discussion and how you persuade your ELA, who's going to be marking this, is the key. And so you've got to support your points with good references while addressing the criteria, and then you'll do well. So your interpretation is valid, basically, and you have to, if you have a good position on this, it should work. You don't need to state whether you agree or disagree, literally. So you just need to position yourself there and communicate the main points you want to get across. It'll be quite clear to us, whether you agree or disagree without explicitly stating it. So the role of teachers and science and technology, or teachers of science and technology, really need to be discussed. So generally, in a primary school, a generalist teacher facilitates both of those subjects. So in my mind, the role of the teachers could be a general discussion, it could be woven through, or it could also be highlighted in your discussion about, because you have to talk about single and cross-disciplinary approaches. And I'll go into that in a second. But also do remember, science and technology are separate subjects, even though they do have a lot in common and they do work in concert with each other very often, but they are separate. Now, it's a fairly restrictive word count. You really have to think about this. What we want to see you doing is weaving the criteria together, and this should help minimise duplication and also demonstrate a higher level of academic writing style. So I would say you need to think about having approximately 3 to 4 paragraphs or arguments, separate kind of arguments that link together to prove or to persuade us about your thesis. So in the live collaborate, we'll go into a bit more detail, but your intro is about 250 words, body, 1,000 to 1,100 words, and then the conclusion 150 to 250 words approximately. How you separate that's up to you. So your 3 to 4 body paragraphs with possible topics, education inspires interest, and you'll go on to discuss how and why. Science and technology. Education develops scientific literacy. It develops metacognition, which includes, students' opinions on climate change, in the broader context. Also, think about STEM jobs for the 21st century. Now, another way you could do it is like the first paragraph could explore the place of science and technology in education. So you discuss the benefits of science and technology for students, the wider community, as well as globally. You might, in the next paragraph, explore the role of science and technology teachers and how they equip and prepare students for the modern world. So what do the teachers do? What role do they play in engaging students and ensuring that they've got the tools to meet the demands of the 21st century? Maybe in the next paragraph you could explore examples of teaching and assessment strategies for effective and engaging teaching of science and technology. So that's where you might discuss what strategies and approaches and different pedagogies can aid in engaging students in science and technology learning. And then you tie it all up with a conclusion. Now, you've also got to explore, very importantly, maybe in the last paragraph, explore the place of single and cross-disciplinary approaches to science and technology teaching. And that's where you discuss things, how learning can be integrated across the curriculum, and what are the benefits of this. Don't automatically assume that single disciplinary approaches are terrible. They're not necessarily at all, but I think we're often encouraged to do cross-disciplinary because it has been proven to be quite beneficial, but that's not to say single does not have some merits as well. You can definitely include an example to illustrate cross-disciplinary approaches, an example of STEAM or STEM. So you just need to make sure all the body paragraphs explicitly cover off the elements in criteria 1, which I should actually quickly go through here. So there's 3 criteria: knowledge and understanding, depth and breadth, academic expression. So, knowledge and understanding. The role of teachers, strategies and assessment approaches, including single and cross-disciplinary, are noted. So you must discuss these. This could be woven through, or it could be a standalone area. So for a pass, however, your connections have not been clearly made with the broader context of the role of science and technology education. Now, broader contexts means that you've made some links between what students are being taught and why and how this benefits them out in the world in later life. So it's really a key part of this essay, the broader context. What's the purpose of teaching science and technology? So to get a credit, again, you've discussed the role of teachers' strategies and assessment approaches, and definitely include assessment approaches. Why do we assess, and how is it beneficial in the different ways we can assess? Somewhere in your essay, there's evidence of some connections being made with the broader context of the role of science and technology education. For a distinction, the role of teachers, strategies and assessment approaches, including single and cross-disciplinary, are explained in detail. And here you would have made clear connections to the broader context of the role of science and technology education. And for a high distinction, which is hopefully you're all aiming for, you'll show a sophisticated understanding of the role of teachers, strategies, assessment and approaches, including single and cross-disciplinary. So strategies are, the bone and how we teach, things like using engaging activities like think, pair, share and stuff like that. And approaches are problem-based learning, or the 5 E's approach, or inquiry learning. So you've discussed things like that with examples. You can put some actual examples in there. If you're going to do some links to the Australian curriculum to support that, you don't need to put whole the codes from the Australian curriculum. You could just use the alphanumeric code. You don't need to use whole descriptions from there, because you'll waste lots of words. I don't think I explained that properly. So do use some examples from the Australian curriculum where appropriate, and you can also use the types of teaching activities that we do. So yeah, I'm talking about the content descriptor codes, by the way. So depth and breadth. So your essay discussions are supported by some relevant readings. There's limited reference to the quote prompts. So whilst we don't want you to directly quote them, we do want you to bring us back to the reason you're writing this essay. So, we need to maintain a flow through there. And the reason you're writing this essay is you're responding to those quote prompts. To get a credit, you respond to the quote prompts. The essay discussion is supported by a range of meaningful examples and backed by relevant readings. So your meaningful examples would be ideas from the Australian curriculum, it would be activity examples, it would be examples from the 5Es model of learning or the problem-based model of learning. We don't want whole lesson plans in there, just a couple of examples to support what you're writing. So for a distinction, the essay provides a comprehensive discussion in response to the quote prompts that's supported by a wide range of relevant and meaningful examples and academic readings. For a high distinction, the essay synthesises a wide range of meaningful examples and academic readings to support a sophisticated discussion in response to the quote prompts. And of course, the last criteria, which is quite high, 20%. So we want your ideas presented in a logical order. For a pass, there could be improvement in structure, and there might be some spelling errors or problems with grammar. But even for a pass, you have to acknowledge all external sources. Your referencing might need a bit of work. So on to a high distinction. The ideas are presented in a well-structured and logical order. The work is free from any spelling errors or problems with grammar. All external sources are referenced correctly in APA style. Now, this is a perfectly good opportunity with this. It's an academic essay, and this is where our student resources are very helpful. You can submit your essay for some feedback from, if you look in the Help Hub there, it's well worth doing. Grammarly is an online tool which won't pick up the content, but it will pick up some grammar and any issues there. It's not perfect though. I know some people have had some issues with getting marked down on that, and they said they did use Grammarly, so also take care, and if possible always get somebody else to read it or read it aloud yourself, which always you realise it's not flowing that well. I'll just have a quick discussion about single and cross-disciplinary approaches, just to remind you. So that refers to the way that science and technology are implemented. So what does the academic literature say about how they're implemented? Is there a case for teaching these disciplines individually, or when weighed up, does the evidence support a cross-curricular approach? So if we try to dig out some academic literature, you can use our e-texts, Google Scholar. There's lots of things in the Swinburne Library if you put the keyword search in there. So you can address single and cross-disciplinary approaches in a woven way throughout other paragraphs if that suits your essay, but we're happy with either woven discussion and examples or standalone paragraph, really getting into that a bit more. It really depends on how you like to write and what makes most sense to you. So, researching. One thing that we do notice in this essay is that some people rely heavily on the Australian curriculum and Australian ACARA to support your thesis. Now, that's an organisation that oversees curriculum. They're not really researchers and don't provide peer-reviewed articles. So, of course, make references and cite it. So, reference to ACARA should only be made if you need to show where a descriptor has come from or why you're making a particular point. So if you mention in your rationale, for example, that you're making a link to the ACARA documents, what does it also say elsewhere by other experts? Does it support what you're saying in line with this ACARA area that you're talking about? So then you're providing a strong thesis if you do make some further links. So don't just rely on that as your academic references, because that will not be strong enough. I'll just have a quick look. All right, another quick thing, strategies and approaches. As far as approaches, you can either concentrate on one or discuss a number. If I was going to do this essay, I'd look at the dot points, so back up where we were before, the assignment details, these dot points, and they would guide my discussion throughout. I might decide to focus on PBL, for example, and talk about how it's a preferred pedagogy for science and technology teaching because it does all the things, you say what they are, that research says students need to be engaged in those subjects. And so we're linking the engagement back to the quotes. Then I'd probably describe in more detail what kind of role the teacher plays in a PBL environment that enables them to prepare students for the modern world. And that sort of meets the second dot point. What kind of strategies are used in a PBL that are effective and engaging when teaching science and technology, which would be the dot point 3. If you took a more general view, you could mention several approaches that fit the requirements of those dot points, but that also depends on how you want to structure your essay. All right, look, I'll leave it there, and we've got our live Collaborate coming up, and just keep referring back to these dot points. How are you responding to these quotes? Have a discussion with some friends about it. What do you think about it? And get some key ideas to discuss there. And look through our readings and the e-texts for your support. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.